Okay, now we're gonna reflash a 2.5 Fortuner. The Fortuner, Hilux, and Innova siblings are actually siblings because take away all the body panels, all the skin, everything. If you're left with the frame itself, the engine, it's mechanically all the same. Even the front suspension is the same for all three cars. So it's not a far stretch that this will make the same power as all three siblings. Of course, there will be slight differences, and then from car to car, there's going to be manufacturing tolerances and all that. But of course, we want more power, and then that's what we'll get. So as usual, step one, we will do a baseline dyno on this car to see if it stacks up and how it compares to other Fortuners that we have on file. This, I believe, is a 2000 ZCB. One of the very first ones. Should be about a 07, 08 one. 05? Really? Yeah. Wow. Really the first one, eh? What's the mileage? 183. Yikes. Okay. For an old workhorse, it still looks pretty good. Let's see how she does. Well, apparently this is our baseline dyno, and it's 73 wheel horsepower. And for all intents and purposes, this is exactly what we expect. Ganyan lang talaga yung manaunang Fortuner, 70 to 75 horses. That's pretty much it. If you're surprised to find out that it's that low, it's really that low. But if you think about it, think back in 2005, when these things first came out. On the brochure, it says 102 horsepower from the 2.5 engine. If you take a 30 horsepower transmission loss, this is exactly what you get. So this is well within spec of what we expect. Ayun lang. Remember what I said about your exhaust being too small and all of that? Everything that you did to your car has zero power gain. Kasi 73 lang eh. Correctly modded, this should be at least 80 horsepower with the correct exhaust and the correct intake. So, yun. So, what we have here, he has a front mount intercooler system, and as we've shown in our Project Elsa Innova, just by putting an intercooler alone, you will get no power gain, as in none. Just by itself. It has to have a boost controller and tuning for you to be able to extract power from the front mount intercooler. And we've also shown in Project Innova, changing out the intake to something that's not our design makes you no power as well. You can prove it right there, 73 horses. And if we look at the exhaust, it's 2.5 inches from the downpipe onwards. Why would you do a 2.5 exhaust when it's exactly the same size as stock? So in short, also no power gain. And once again, we've seen it on the dyno, 73 horses. Nothing, no gain whatsoever. But that's why he's here, to do an ECU reflash, and then we'll show you what real gain looks like. VGT. Basically, these two are one and the same thing. VNT means variable nozzle turbo. VGT means variable geometry turbo. Pareho lang yung dalawang yan. Isa lang yung trabaho niyan. Magkaiba lang yung terms. Meron pa, if you use Hyundai, meron pa REVGT. Oh. Yun din yun. E is for electronic because these things are electronically controlled. Your standard turbo, this is what you have. May pito dyan, and this one nakakabit dyan eh. Once this produces pressure, there is air inside here that has pressure. So once this pressure goes in here, it pushes a diaphragm going out. Bumubukas to. Normally sarado to eh. Bumubukas to relieve the pressure. So it's a feedback mechanism. Once this closes, akit yung pressure. Once it opens, bababa yung pressure. So this one moves. Maganon-ganon. yung wastegate. This is your normal turbo. Your VNT turbo is a bit different. Instead of a wastegate in the middle, you have here a thing with a socket na may solenoid. May tusok din siya that pushes the VNT vane. Meaning, instead of a wastegate flap on the exhaust side that opens and closes, what you have here in the middle is a vane that at full open looks like that. Then there's a lever here that pushes an outer ring to make it look like that. Lumiliit, lumalaki. To have more boost, you open it up like that. Kasi mas nakukuha niya yung hangin eh. Pag lumiit yan, hihina yung boost. Ito yung nagko-control nun. Ito, nakadikit sa ECU yan. So, if you put a VNT turbo into a non-VNT car, permanently nakasarado yan. Hindi rin. Kasi wala. Saan mo sasaksak to? Walang saksakan yan eh.
Dapat palit ka rin ng ECU.
Yun. Kung gano'n, bumili ka lang ng 3 liter. So, yun yung problema. Kaya, the 2.5s, the powerful ones that you see, they just simply change to a bigger turbo. Na wastegate pa rin. It can never be VNT. No way. So, yun. Mas pangit, turbo na lang siya. So, to have more air, more flow, and all of that.
Bakit yung Fortuner mas malakas siya pumatak kaysa sa Innova, pero same tuning lang yun. Pero
Same everything. Mechanically, yes. Mechanically, it's the same. ECU is the same. Ang pinagkakaiba, yung laman ng ECU. Because in the hierarchy of how Toyota sells it, the Innova is the cheapest one. Eh. You cannot ask 200,000 pesos more for something that's the same power as your cheapest model. Kahit the same engine. That's what happens with the current Innova and the current 2.8 Fortuner. You cannot have an Innova that's the same power as a Fortuner and ask for significantly more money. Oh yes, mas maganda yung insura and all that, but sa nakakaalam, why the hell would I...
Pag reflash na sila.
Pretty much, yeah. Mahabol mo. Yeah. And more, actually. So like the Innova we did a while ago, although it's a manual, we started at 180 horse. Medyo mataas na nga siya eh, for Innova, and we ended up with 210, which is a hell of a lot more than a stock Fortuner. Tuning-wise, if it's the Innova and the Fortuner, what we see the differences when we open up the map are the fuel pressure map. Ito, may pagkakaiba to. Mas mataas ng konti sa mga ibang Fortuner. There are some Fortuners actually the same powers as Innova, depending on what year, and siguro kung anong ECU nakakabit. Because the bad part about the Toyota is that ECU is made by Denso, and they make it in batches. It starts with the number like 89663-OK42, something like that. So let's say itong una, 1,000 units. Next na to, 1,000 ulit. Next na to, 1,000 ulit. Ito, 1,000 ulit. Ito mapupunta sa Innova, ito mapupunta sa Fortuner. It's the same friggin' ECU. They just have a bunch of different numbers. Oh. Then yung from number to number, especially if it's too far enough, may pagkakaiba yung laman. Because that's also how they can keep the car somewhat competitive. Meaning that, because hardware is very hard to change. It's hard to re-engineer a new turbo, it's hard to engineer a new engine, so the easiest way to make power to keep up with the competition, which is what happened to the Fortuners around 2014, just the pinaka-last generation before the latest one now. Di ba nagkaroon ng 2.5 na VNT? So basically, they took the turbo of the old one, of the 3 liter, slapped it on the 2.5, and then changed the program to make it work. Pwede yun. Oo. It cost them nothing because nandun na eh.
Turbo lang.
Same turbo lang yun, yes. Mas mahina kasi 2.5 and then the tuning is a little bit different obviously. Pero in terms of from a product development standpoint, wala ka nang kailangang igastos na gagawa ka ng bago eh. Nandyan na eh. Kukunin mo lang, ikakabit mo lang, magpo-program ka na lang. Yun! Although may cost pa rin, but it's hell of a lot cheaper than engineering something totally new. Especially when Toyota itself knows that the next generation is just around the corner. Kumbaga, pinakahuling stretch na lang para mabenta pa. Nandun, nagbabasa ng Ranger. Sa Ranger, nagbabasa. Kaya, yun.
Yung mga 3-cylinder na nakaturbo, mas malakas pa siya kaysa sa 4-cylinder na.
Kasi nakaturbo.
Eh, kahit na nakaturbo rin na.
Depende. I'm assuming you're talking about EcoBoost, the Ford one.
Kahit na yung sa, diba yung sa full range na.
One yung 3 liter na turbo. Here's the thing. What are they comparing it to? If you're comparing a 1 liter engine na turbocharged to a 1 liter engine na 4-cylinder like what you have there in the Picanto, obviously, talo to. But ang point of comparison nila with this one, you compare to a previous 1.6 liter na kotse. You get supposedly you get the economy of a 1.0 but the power of a 1.6. That is Ford's EcoBoost. That's the marketing pitch. But in reality, hindi ganun. Malakas din sa gas yan dahil 1 liter. Hindi naintindihan na tao na, uy, 1 liter matipid sa gas. Then there's a price ng konsumo na is just like a 1.6. Okay, fine. Mas malito ng konting-konti. Kala nila pag 1 liter, 1 liter turbo, malakas. De parang Wigo na lang yan. Hindi ganun yun. So this one's a stupid misnomer. It's neither economical, nor is it either boost friendly. The EcoBoost kasi was developed in the last decade when fuel prices were absurdly high. Oh, diba? Everybody remembers that? Nagkataasan. So we developed smaller, lighter, more fuel-efficient engine. Look what happens now. Tapon na lahat. Wala na EcoBoost ngayon sa US. Nasa Mustang na lang, which they're gonna phase out either way. Balik sila lahat sa V8. If you see all the other American manufacturers, what are they doing? V8 truck again. V8 supercar, V8 Challenger, V8 everything, V6 this, V6 that. America's killing, the American manufacturers are already killing all their 4-cylinder small cars. Nobody's making them anymore. Ford actually shut down and the entire production of Focus, Fiesta, Taurus, basta all their sedans, wala na, hindi bebenta sa Amerika. Truck na lang. Namely, Expedition F-150, the upcoming Bronco. Ranger is upcoming also. So, Ford ain't a car and Mustang, of course. If you want matipid na kotse in the Philippine context, nothing still beats a diesel pa rin. Because primarily, diesel fuel in the Philippines is cheaper than gasoline. In every other part of the world, diesel's either slightly more expensive or the same price as gasoline. But they still buy it because of the mileage. For the same gallon of diesel and gas, you get more kilometers per liter per gallon dun sa diesel. Apple to apple. Kaya sa Europe, puro diesel lahat. Sa Amerika, ayaw ng diesel. Gusto nila, di 8. Wala tayong magagawa doon. Ganun talaga. Dito sa Pilipinas, half of all cars, pretty much, I'm guessing now, even more than half, they're all diesels. Every manufacturer now has one. Even Honda has a diesel. Mahal lang nga. But you can't compete now if you don't have a diesel because that's what people want. And it makes economical sense for everybody here. Screw the emissions, screw the planet, screw the next generation. We want our nice, powerful diesel now. Global warming will be solved and climate change will be solved by some smart person in the next 20 years. Don't worry. And we don't need no damn government regulations to tell us how to solve it. And especially diesels, for the same price of a Remap, my Remap is 25 grand. Ilan yung sa Innova mo? 40, di ba? Dagdag?
Ano yun eh, from 68.
Naging 120?
128.
Oh, 60.
127.90.
Okay. For 25 grand, you get 60 horses. I charge the same for a Civic 1.8. 25 din. Same amount of work eh. I get oh, sige. 13. So, if you are really analytical, scrutinized about it, tangina ba ito magpapa-reflash niyan? Ba ito magtotono ng Civic? Ito lang makukuha mo. When I can tune a diesel and get this.
Laki nga.
Oo nga. And you know what the answer?
Pa nga yung chip nun. Kasi
Oo.
pati yung...
Oh, di ba naka-DP chip ka dati? Oh, yun. Babay na yun. Benta mo na. Or ano, wala. Nakatiwangwang na lang dyan. Kaya why in the world would you want to tune this versus this? For the simple reason is, wala akong Fortuner, wala akong Innova, meron akong Civic. That's the only reason why. As much as I like and dream about these kinds of gains on a car that I don't own.
Ang dami ng ano kasi, yung in terms of yung sa fuel efficiency.
Yes, diesel are fuel efficient. Mileage per mileage wise, panalo to over gas any day.
From 6.6 lang ano eh.
Dati 6.6 ka?
Oh,
Kilometers per liter?
Oo. Ngayon, ano na sila, 10.4 average.
So basically, that's 80% more. 80% better mileage.
Kaya nga bumalik ako, sabi ko, paayos ko.
Oh, sige. Oh, yun. Tama yun. Normally on this one, magsaya na tayo if we get 8 to 10 kilometers per liter, percent more. Like his Ranger Raptor, I think we got at least that, di ba? 8 to 10% better mileage. Well, because big tires and all of that stuff. But still, small cars, I really don't understand why don't they just sell all diesel here? Because in Europe, you have a diesel Civic, you have a diesel Jazz, you have a diesel Yaris, you have a diesel Vios. You have diesel everything. Just import all those small cars here, then let's just run on diesel. You can forget gasoline then. Oh, pag yun, you'll buy it in droves. Pero the entry point, the purchase price is of course more expensive. But I think people will buy it. I think very simple. Like now, magkano yung bagong Fortuner? Pinaka top of the line. Wag naman top of the line. The normal 2.41 is about 1.6.
Yun yung parang pinaka lowest price na ano.
No, the lowest price one is 1.3. Gasolina na Fortuner. That's 1.3 million. Sa diesel parang 1.6 eh. Oh, ang justification naman doon na ito ahente, sir, yung gasolina lang kunin mo. Total naman in mga 10 years, yun din naman gagastos mo sa gasolina, 300,000 na tinipid mo eh. So, diba? Oo. Bibili kang diesel ngayon. Pero, you take that savings, put it towards gasoline, quits lang kayo in the end. Ayos din yung pitch eh. Tragis na yan. Absurd, but it makes sense. You can't argue with that. Ibang klase din eh. Kasi yun nga eh. Why the hell would you want to buy a gasoline Fortuner? But apparently, it's enough that they still sell it. Even the newest generation. I thought that they would finally kill it na nga eh, with 2 engine variants. Forget the gasoline. Nobody wants to buy this shit. Hindi eh. Bili-bili pa rin eh.
Mas efficient ba yung 2.4 na
Fortuner?
Fortuner?
Than this one?
Doon sa pinalitan nga before na
Yeah. Part of the efficiency is not just because the engine is newer, makes more power and all better, because of the transmission as well. It's now 6-speed versus yan 4-speed lang eh. The more gears that you have, the more efficient it will be when you're traveling, especially long distances, because what you want to happen is highest speed, which is in kph, at the lowest RPM possible, which can be achieved habang kumakambyo ka, pataas ng pataas yung gear mo. So what you want to happen, ideally, for best efficiency, you say, tumatakbo ka ng 120, nasa 6th gear ka, and at 1.8 RPM. Hindi nagagawa yan ng lumang Fortuner. Hindi siya 1.8 RPM. Siguro mga 2.5 yun at 120 at 4th gear. So, given that, mas matipid kasi mas mababa yung RPM. Kaya it's engine displacement and engine size is only one part of the equation in fuel efficiency. The biggest factor in determining how fuel efficient your car is oh, tama ka, mali. Huwag mo pakan, matipid. Pag nasa EDSA ka ngayon, wala ka na pakialam sa ibang tao. Bitawan mo lang yung silinyador. Aandar naman siya, di ba? O, doon ka lang. Tapos bigyan mo lang ng konti. O, 40 lang nga takbo mo. Yes, we're in the age of better efficiency, but it's always people being people. Gusto ko malakas na matipid. Oh. Ever since naman, yun ang gusto nila eh. And every generation, nga, mas malakas na yun, mas matipid pa. Hindi, gusto ko pa, mas malakas pa, mas matipid pa. Humans are idiots. Never be satisfied. What can we say? Hence, I guess 20 years from now, we'll all be driving electric cars.
Hindi na hybrid.
Hybrid basically is a stopgap eh, but like with anything, it's competing technologies now eh, because in the start of the automobile age, we had electric cars too. The problem has been always which will win out more in terms of how much you can sell and the resources that are required to run it. And at that time, batteries being batteries are more expensive than just drilling in the ground for oil.
Tumatagal yung mga batteries ng electric car.
Yun pa, we're in the age right now that is a wait and see. From what we know right now, the first generation Priuses, Toyota guarantees 10 years for the battery, 80% charge. So far, tumatakbo pa naman daw. But, there's it, like... kaya it drops, it really drops until we can find a way. Yung cellphone na lang eh, every so often, nagpapalit ka ng baterya eh. So, dun pa sa kotse. Kaya wait and see ngayon yun. But, ang at least maganda dun, if it's really just the battery, then every 10 years, gastos ka ng battery pack.
Yung price ng battery.
Well, yun na yun. Wait and see how it all does. Because these things we will never know until another 10 years from now. What happens to all the battery running cars and all of that. Alright, remap is done, and then sa lahat ng ginastos niya, ito lang yung lumakas. So we used to be 73 horsepower, now we're at 121 horses, 122, fine. So for all intents and purposes, it's a 50 horse increase peak to peak. But the biggest gain is actually here at the very bottom, 40 horse to 110. That's 70 horses right there. Yung unang tapak at 19 RPM. Torque is also big from 150 Newton meters all the way up to 425. And now it's a straight line, hindi siya curve na ganyan. This is the wrong curve for torque. This is the correct one for diesel engines, particularly this Toyota diesel engine. This is the correct shape, that's the correct shape, not this. So owners should be happy with this one. He also actually has a throttle control over there. Ayan, tatanggalin na namin yan kasi wala nang saysay yan eh. Benta na niya.
Here on Spotify.